This is Ashley Loudermilk, and I am presenting Erikson's stages of psychosocial theory of development. Psychosocial development theory. Erikson's theory is based on the idea that development through life is a series of stages, which are defined by a crisis or challenge. Erikson's stages of psychosocial theory of development are trust and mistrust, autonomy and shame, initiative and guilt, industry and inferiority, identity and role confusion. The first one I'm going to talk about is trust versus mistrust. And this typically is from birth to 1 year old, so it's infancy. And the basic conflict is trust versus mistrust. Important event, feeding, important relationship with the mother. Infant must develop loving, trusting relationships with the mother or the caregiver through feeding, teething, and comforting. Failure to resolve conflict can lead to sensory distortion and withdrawal. This stage is all about fulfilling needs. The baby needs to trust the world around them to take care of their needs. If they are hungry, they need to develop trust they will be fed. If they are not fed or their diaper is left dirty, they may develop a mistrust in the outside world. This sense of trust or mistrust can affect the child throughout their life. The next one is autonomy versus shame and doubt. This stage is from age 1 to 3 years old. The basic conflict, autonomy versus shame and doubt. The important event is toilet training, and the important relationship is with the parents. The child's energy is directed towards mastering physical skills such as walking, grasping, and muscular control. The child learns self-control but may develop shame, doubt, impulsivity, or compulsion if not handled well. Autonomy means being your own boss. Here, a toddler tries to control their own bodies by pouring the milk on their own. Sometimes they pour the milk all over the table, and they may get yelled at by their parents, causing shame and doubt of their own abilities. If we learn how to control ourselves in reasonable ways, we develop a healthy will. We are then able to face the later challenges of life. The next stage is initiative versus guilt. This is from 3 to 5 years old. The important event is independence, and the important relationship is family. The child continues to become more assertive in exploration, discovery, adventure, and play. The child may show too much force in this stage, causing feelings of guilt. Failure to resolve this conflict can lead to ruthlessness and inhibition. In this stage, children want to understand the world by asking a lot of questions. If their initiative in questioning the world is encouraged, then they will feel comfortable with expressing their curiosity throughout the rest of their life. If we discourage them and tell them to not disturb us, then they will feel guilty about their questioning and avoid being inquisitive later. Next is industry versus inferiority from 6 to 12 years old. The important event is school, and the important relationships are teachers, friends, and neighborhood. The child must learn to deal with new skills and develop a sense of achievement and accomplishment. Failure to do so can create a sense of inferiority, failure, and incompetence. Industry versus inferiority is where most children begin formal education and will be formally evaluated. If a child raises their hand in class and answers a question correctly, then he or she will feel industrious, which is competent. If the child fails to answer the question correctly, he or she is made fun of by peers, and then the child will feel inferior. Last is identity versus role confusion. This is from ages 12 to 20. The important event is development of peer relationships, and the important relationships are peers, groups, and social influences. The teenager must achieve a sense of identity in occupation, sex roles, politics, and religion. In addition, they must resolve their identity and direction. Failure to make these resolutions can lead to the repression of aspects of the individual for the sake of others. In adolescence, Erikson believed that a teenager's main social need is to discover his or her social identity. While searching for your identity, you may try out different roles, like trying to fit into various social groups. Adolescents should have a sense, or Erikson believed they may have an identity crisis later.
Piaget Stages of Development, presented by Kaylin Obiozor. Piaget was a Swiss psychologist who worked for several decades on understanding children's cognitive development. Most widely known theory of cognitive development was attracted by kids' thoughts and behaviors and worked to understand their cognitive development. Piaget's 4 stages are sensorimotor, birth to 2 years old, pre-operational, 2 to 7, concrete operational, 7 to 11, formal operation, 12 to 15. Sensor motor stage, birth to about 2 years old. When a baby is born, he or she starts developing both physically and cognitively. Physical skills includes crawling, grasping, and pulling, as well as general physical growth. However, as babies develop cognitive skills, they start thinking about their behaviors and reacting to different stimuli, such as noises. Movement and emotions. This is what defines the sensorimotor stage. For example, a baby might giggle or smile because he or she perceives something as funny or interesting. Giggling or smiling is an example of a reaction induced by cognitive development, so it would fall under the sensorimotor stage. In the second stage, pre-operational stage. In this period, intelligence is demonstrated through motor activity without the use of symbols. Knowledge of the world is limited but developing. Because it is based on physical interaction and experiences, some symbolic abilities are developed at the end of this stage. During this stage, a child begins the ability to represent objects, language, and imagination. Children will also learn through imagination and play during this stage. They begin to use reasoning, however, it is mainly intuitive instead of logical. Concrete operational stage, the third stage. The concrete operational stage is the third stage in Piaget's theory of cognitive development. This period spans from 7 and continues until age 11, and it is characterized by the development of logical thought. While their thinking still tends to be very concrete, children become much more logical and sophisticated in their thinking during this stage of development. While this is an important stage, it also serves as an important transition between earlier stages of development and the coming stage where kids will learn how to think more abstractly and hypothetically. While kids at this stage become more logical about concrete and specific things, they will still struggle with abstract ideas. The formal operational stage is the fourth stage and the final stage of Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. It begins at age 12 and lasts until adulthood. At this point in development, thinking becomes much more sophisticated and advanced. Kids can think about abstract and theoretical concepts and use logic to come up with creative solutions to problems. Skills such as logical thought, deductive reasoning, and systematic planning also emerge during this stage.
And this is Kohlberg's Stages of Moral Development with Katherine Whipple. Lawrence Kohlberg, born in 1927 and died in 1987, was the psychologist who developed this theory. He developed this theory in his undergraduate work for the University of Chicago and became very famous for it. He actually worked for a while with Jean Piaget on these theories, so Kohlberg's stages are similar to Piaget's theories. However, Kohlberg's theories are a little more detailed and distinct. There are 3 main levels and 2 substages in each level, which we will explore in this presentation. As Piaget did, Kohlberg used stories to examine how people's morality worked at different ages. For example, one story Kohlberg is well known for is the Heinz dilemma. This is a story with a man named Heinz, where Heinz's wife is dying of a deadly disease. There is a medicine that can cure her, but the man cannot afford it. He asks the pharmacist to lower the price or give it to him for free, but the pharmacist refuses, so Heinz steals the drug. The question then becomes, did Heinz do the right thing? With stories like this, Kohlberg was able to decipher people's moral reasoning and justification at different ages. This is the first level Kohlberg believed people entered into from babies to around 9 years old. Under the level of pre-conventional morality, the substage is called obedience and punishment orientation. At this stage, children basically operate under the fear of being punished. They will ultimately do whatever they are told to avoid what they perceive as a consequence. Thus, when people break a rule, they face the consequences, and that's life. Children in this stage will respond to Heinz's dilemma by saying Heinz did the wrong thing. He broke the law, that's bad, so Heinz will go to jail. Next, and still within the first level, is the second substage called self-interest orientation. This is still in the age range of 0 to 9 years old. In this level, people generally seek happiness in life. They want to fulfill their self-interest, but some risks are involved when people do this. Ultimately, some may be punished if they are caught. Children in these stages can generally understand that both Heinz and the pharmacist were seeking their own happiness. The pharmacist wanted money, and Heinz wanted medicine for his wife. There is a risk Heinz will go to jail, but he is just trying to save his wife. Now we are in level 2, conventional morality, that includes teens and young adults. The first substage of this deals with social conformity orientation. Here, people are concerned with how others are viewing their actions. They feel a sense of duty to their family and community to uphold their expectations and avoid guilt. So people respond to the Heinz dilemma saying Heinz did the right thing to protect his wife. That's his family, and I'd protect my family too. They may also say that they're afraid of how the community would see their punishment if they were arrested, because they may feel guilty if they sense disapproval. This is the second substage of level 2. This law and order orientation involves a broad view approach where the world only functions if people are following laws. Laws are meant to maintain order, so we must abide by them even when it's tough, or there will be chaos. When given the Heinz dilemma, this often results in, what would the world be like if everyone stole? It would be chaos. This is the final level of Kohlberg's stages of morality. This is the post-conventional level and the social contract orientation substage within that. Kohlberg believed as few as 10 to 15% of adults reach this stage of development. At this stage, people are beginning to hold human rights and valuing of life over the strictness of the laws. In answering Heinz's dilemma, they will often use some theory or example to show how society's laws are not always morally right and need to change. For example, people will agree with Heinz's choice to steal the medicine and justify it by mentioning examples of how black rights changed because people stood up for human rights in the civil rights movement or in the Civil War. So the law should probably change here to protect Heinz's wife too. Finally, we have the second substage of post-conventional morality as universal ethics orientation. Kohlberg was actually unsure of the accuracy of this stage in the latter years of the theory's development. This is where people think in a way that fits with their own moralities. People will generally come up with a universal law or rule that can apply to everyone in any situation. They disregard others' opinions and do what they think is right personally. In response to Heinz's dilemma, participants may opt to save the wife regardless of the laws and others' opinions because they are seeking the justice of protecting her life. Thank you all. That was the theory of Kohlberg's stages of moral development, and here are my references. Thank you for listening.